Welcome to Red Zone Extra, Facebook.com. Red Zone Extra, Facebook Live on Facebook.com. It's
Close
late.
enough.
It's late. It's already Monday. That's Herbie Teope. I'm Blair Kirchhoff, and soon we'll be joined by the crew, Sam Mellinger, Sam McDowell, Vahe Gregorian, to discuss the Chiefs' 31-24 loss to the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. Herbie, I said this before the game, and I think I'm right about this. I thought that with 6 starters out for the Chiefs, 6 starters, and we'll list them here in a second. It's the most injury-affected Chiefs game I can remember. Covered them for 5 years, and you covered them, Andy Reid's first couple of years, and even before that. But to have as many starters out as the Chiefs had. They kind of hung with the Packers, a 6-1 team, one of the better teams that's on their schedule, but they just didn't have enough in the end, did they?
And you're absolutely correct, Blair, because I think a lot of us, and I think like fans who are realistic with themselves, when you saw the list of inactives, especially when you're out Patrick Mahomes, Frank Clark, I know you want to go through the list, but I want to name them anyway, Chris Jones, Eric Fisher, Andrew Wiley, Kendall Fuller. Those are your 6 starters who did not play tonight. And you looked at this game, and on Friday, I think a lot of us have said there's no way in the world the Chiefs are going to win this game. But they almost did, and I think that's the biggest takeaway for me from this game was the fact that they were competitive against a Packers team that was on a roll. I mean, they entered this game at 6-1, but it was impressive that they were able to hang with the Packers here at Arrowhead Stadium. I think one alarming trend is starting to materialize, though. This is the 3rd straight home loss that the Chiefs have suffered here at Arrowhead Stadium, and now you got to wonder, is there such a thing as home field advantage now?
1-3 at home this year, 4-0 on the road, and if you include last season, they're 3-5 in their last 8 games at Arrowhead, which I imagine. The 3-game losing streak has to be the longest in the Reid era. They've never had a season at home with, I don't think, 3 losses. I'm going to check that, but it really is a little unusual. Now, of course, the circumstances were different tonight because of the injuries, as we said, and the big one to Patrick Mahomes. He did not start a game for the first time since becoming a starter. That final game of the 2017 season was he had to start against Denver, didn't start the playoff game the next week. But starting with game 1 in 2018, he's been the Chiefs starter, did not start today because of the knee injury he suffered in Denver back a week ago Thursday. Matt Moore was his replacement, but even Matt Moore was not with the Chiefs in training camp. He was a post-training camp signee, and I really didn't know what to expect. I did think that the Chiefs would have and Andy Reid would script a pretty good game plan for him, and I thought that they did that. He was a little bit rusty early. He knocked that off, and of course he played 2.5 quarters against Denver 9 days ago. How do you think Matt Moore did in his start?
I will say this, Blair. The first 2 series, I was a little concerned.
Yeah.
I felt like they needed to settle him down in a hurry. They opened the game up with a couple of runs, a couple of nice runs. But then when he started throwing the ball, some of his throws were sailing high. One to Tyreek Hill over on the left sideline, and the one that stands out to me was the one to the right sideline. I believe it was to Sammy Watkins. But he quickly settled down after that, and I think the Chiefs got him into a nice rhythm with some short and intermediate throws. And once he started picking that up, it almost reminded me of Alex Smith out there. The short dink and dunks, and they weren't taking all the long shots down the field, but it got him settled down. And I talked to Austin Reeder after the game, and he basically said, one thing that stood out to him as a center was you do take into account that Matt Moore was coaching high school football this summer, but now all of a sudden he's thrust into the starting role. And he did well for what was expected of him. I thought he did. I thought he performed well. You got to remember, they went blow to blow with this Packers team, blow to blow, and a lot of it was because of the play of Matt Moore and also the defense.
Look, a Packers team that needed 2, miracle's not the right word, but 2 Hall of Fame throws by a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. One that got him in scoring position in the first half, and the other that was the touchdown that gave him a 24-17 lead, where he was all but sacked. And I don't know if he saw the completion of the pass in the end zone, but it was Andy Reid called it a Hall of Fame, throw by a future Hall of Fame quarterback. You mentioned a game management type of game for Matt Moore, a la Alex Smith. I thought he had a very Alex Smith number, 24 of 36 for 267 or something like that.
Yes.
That is so Alex Smithian, right? Couple of touchdowns, no interceptions. Alex Smith didn't make mistakes, but Alex Smith. Is this a game that Smith would have won? I don't know. It's hard to say. The Green Bay's a really good team. But Sam McDowell joins us, and you wrote about Matt Moore.
About the quarterback.
Yes. So you heard from him after the game, and you heard Andy Reid talk about him, talked to some teammates. Herbie and I have given a breakdown. What did you think of Matt Moore tonight?
I thought he was better than expected. For a guy that hadn't played an NFL game, I mean, I guess he played a little bit last week, but hadn't started an NFL game in 23 months. And I think I turned to Herbie at one point and said, why wasn't this guy on a roster already? Not as a starter, but as a backup. You know, I mean, that's a guy that you don't mind having to trot out there in a situation like this. You could certainly have worse situations, I thought. Started a little bit shaky, and I think he even acknowledged that nerves were there. So right. I thought you could sense that in the first couple drives. I think he had -1 yards through 2 drives.
-2.
Yeah.
-2. But you did start to worry a little bit, like, how bad could this get? And then he settled into the game. And I thought a large chunk of that, and I'm sure Herbie's already mentioned this because he said it during the press box, but a large chunk of that were the plays they were calling for him to help him settle into the game. And you mentioned Alex Smith. I thought even a little bit more conservative than that. And I don't mean in creativity conservative. I mean short throws, just easy completion throws, because they got creative tonight in the playbook.
They did. Well, both touchdowns really were
creative plays.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But not that. The only difficulty on the Kelsey throw was he had somebody in his face. And that's something else that.
And had to get rid of it sooner than he would have wanted to.
A lot of times tonight that happened to him. He had people in his face a lot. And Matt Moore is not afraid to take a hit.
And then the other one was the sort of the jet sweep little toss to McCole Hardman.
Yeah.
That Hardman
has to be the absolute shortest in the air pass he's ever thrown in his life.
All right, so Matt Moore played. I agree with you. Kind of unexpectedly well, or at least above expectations. I thought the defense was okay. I mean, they got to they followed their 8-sack of Flacco game at Denver, 9 sacks overall, with a 5-sack game of Aaron Rodgers. That's good stuff.
Without Chris Jones and without Frank
Clark. That is really good stuff.
I thought the defense was good tonight. And I know you look at it and you say, 31 points. How can you say the defense was good? But number 12 was the difference.
Okay, so that was my question. So we established that Matt Moore had a good game. The defense played well. How did the Chiefs lose this game? Why'd they lose it?
Yeah, number 12 to me.
Aaron Rodgers.
He made a couple of just ridiculous throws that I actually asked Tyrann Mathieu in the game. You've probably seen that in practice before, but probably not a lot of other times. I mean, and Mathieu didn't think that Aaron Rodgers was even trying to throw the ball to was it Williams that caught the ball in the back corner of the end zone?
Yes.
I think a lot of guys thought he was throwing that ball away, and they showed the reaction that Aaron Rodgers had on the TVs, and he looked shocked that ball was complete because he was getting sacked on the play. He's just getting rid of it. So he's on the ground. He didn't even see it complete. He's looking at the Jumbotron afterwards for replays of it, and I think he's thinking, wait a minute, how the hell was this 7 points? And for very first drive of the game, very similar situation where he made just a miraculous pass, a great catch as well. But to me, he was the only reason that the Packers won this game. McCoy fumble was big, but I thought that Aaron Rodgers was the reason the Packers won tonight.
The thing that also impressed me with the Chiefs defense was, in addition to the 5 sacks, they hit Aaron Rodgers 12 times.
Yeah.
Matched his number 12 times. And when you're hitting a quarterback in the double digits, you are affecting the game. You are affecting his mindset. And there were a couple times where Rodgers was scrambling out of the pocket because he felt that pressure coming, or he thought the pressure was coming. And that's the kind of game that the Chiefs defense had tonight.
This is going to surprise a lot of people, but he doesn't get sacked all that often.
Correct.
And it's because he's so good at knowing this is the last moment I have to get rid of this football right now. So for him to get sacked 5 times is pretty significant for a defensive line missing the 2 guys that are required to do that more often than anybody, with Chris Jones and Frank Clark.
Well, you guys kind of dismissed it quickly, but Kathy Christensen, Jordan Tribe, and Robert Nakel, and myself are in agreement that
You're putting yourself in this, okay?
that the LaShawn McCoy fumble was bigger than
Aaron Rodgers?
No,
Okay.
but
I didn't discount it.
no, but a bigger moment in the game that I totally agree that Aaron Rodgers made a couple of plays that are, as Andy Reid said, Hall of Fame worthy from a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
But the LaShawn McCoy fumble happened after the game was 17-all.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs had not lost the momentum of the game yet. I thought it was. I'll tell you what. I thought it was. The Chiefs had the lead at halftime, 17 unanswered points after falling down 14-0. Had the lead at halftime. Had the kick to start the second half. Didn't do anything with it. Packers ended up getting a field goal, but the Chiefs had the ball. Still anybody's game, and LaShawn McCoy, who does not have a fumble problem or hasn't had one until this year, according to Andy Reid, has lost a couple of fumbles for the Chiefs. And tonight's, I thought, was critical. It was just the wrong time to do it. And a veteran player, he does carry the ball kind of loosely at times.
Yeah.
He went into a pile with the ball loose and just got slapped out from behind, and the guy who hit it out, Christensen, I think, fell on it for the recovery. And that was the Packers' possession that resulted in the second of the Aaron Rodgers crazy passes.
Yeah.
So here's my point about the fumble. In a game in which you're starting not Patrick Mahomes, your greatest weapon, your margin for error is reduced.
Yeah.
So Harrison Butker misses a field goal. Sammy Watkins drops a pass. Bashard Breeland drops it, not drops, but was in a position to make an interception, didn't do it. And then the McCoy fumble. You can't do those things when Patrick Mahomes isn't your quarterback.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely right.
That's how I feel about it.
I think the McCoy, and I actually mentioned this in my gamer, and I said in the game of the way this game was materializing, it boiled down to who was going to make the first glaring mistake. And I think I mentioned LaShawn McCoy accommodated the Packers because of that fumble. And to me, late in the game, when the game is still pretty much in doubt, and then the fumble like that, and the Packers scored 5 plays later, and that took away a lot of air in the stadium, and I think a lot of people felt like, oh boy, here we go. The Chiefs did manage to tie the score again. You know, they to their credit, they didn't let that get to them. They went down the field and scored, but that was a game changer.
Asking a lot of the defense, because they've been on the field. I don't know exactly the length of that possession that preceded, where they only got a field goal out of it, but that was a long possession. Their first time getting the ball to open the third quarter. Mm-hmm. So it was only McCoy fumbled on the second play of that drive.
I think it was the first or second play.
So for them to have to go immediately back out there, and then you're trying to ask them on a short field, just been on the field forever, when you felt like they did an adequate job to hold the Packers to the field goal. Now it's, hey guys, we're going to need something else out of you right now. It was a lot to ask of the defense.
That's when time of possession started to get out of hand. It wasn't quite like it was in the home losses to the Colts and the Texans, but it ended up 33 to 26, 33 to 27.
And I'm sure the second half had to be significantly more because of that. I mean, you only run whatever it was, 1 or 2 plays over a stretch of, and the Packers probably ran about 20 plays during that stretch.
All right, let's talk about another critical moment in the game. Vahe is actually writing his column about this, so maybe when Vahe gets here,
should be filed by Tuesday.
we'll get Vahe's opinion, but so. Chiefs are down 7. There's 5 minutes to go. They do not convert on a 3rd and 3 from their 40. Maybe you guys can tell me whether Kelsey dropped the ball or whether.
No, great. We went back and watched a great defensive play. I wish I could remember who it was. I think it was 39. Those of us get so used to labeling these guys by numbers. But great defensive play. Timed it perfectly. I didn't think he hit Kelsey early, but he gets his hand in there. And I think the reason that Kelsey's didn't he say that he felt like he dropped that ball?
Yes.
He doesn't get his hands on that though.
Well, Kelsey
maybe he felt like he could have reached out a little bit further to prevent the guy coming in from behind him. I don't know whether that's why he's classifying that as a play that could have been made, but I credit the defense on that play.
Kelsey was pretty hard on himself in the locker room after the game. I mean, he basically said he was disgusted with the way he played in the fourth quarter. He has to make that play. And that's just Kelsey being the competitive guy that he is. But if Sam says he saw on the tape that it was just a good defensive play, It's just a good defensive play.
Yeah.
Well,
But
so the question
sets up-
becomes, should the Chiefs have gone? Yeah, it sets up 4th and 3.
I kind of think we should set you up for this because you were in there when Andy explained, because since Vahe's not
Yeah.
here, but you were in there when Andy explained, he's got 4th and 3, 5.5 minutes left. He's got 3 timeouts.
Defense, as we have established, was playing
pretty well.
but maybe a little gas at this
Yeah,
point.
but they'd been on the field a lot in the second half. It's at, the 39, 40-yard line,
It's at the
40-yard line, 4th and 3. You felt like you actually, even though that the great defensive play made, you felt like maybe you had already called a play that proved you could get that. The Packers, certainly their weakness is defense more than offense. You'd rather have their defense on the field than offense. But I'm actually, since I wasn't there, I'm actually curious.
Well,
what Andy said
it was the first question of Vahe asked it of Andy, and I'll give Andy credit. He basically said, essentially, it's a coin flip decision. He was playing the percentages. He thought that with 5 minutes to go and all of his time, like you said, all of his timeouts and the way his defense, he was happy with the way his defense played, that they'd get the ball back. And then they get an incredible punt. They get the punt to the 2.
Everything goes right.
Yes,
Yeah,
they get the roll on the punt and it dies at the 2. And I thought trouble on the first snap when I guess was it Aaron?
I think it was Jones in the game at that point.
Joe, okay, gets 8 on first down up the middle. And I thought, this. At this point, the Packers' offensive line is beating the Chiefs' defense, and if that's going to happen on that play, and it's going to continue to happen, then they're not getting the ball back.
I think we should point out that 5 for 5 in the press box. I think we all thought they should go for that play, and not to say that means it's an easy decision. Certainly, when you go for it on your own half of the field, you feel like with 5.5 minutes left, if you don't get that, the game's probably over at that point. But Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw a lot of completions, so I felt like the clock was going to continuously move as soon as you give up the ball, even if you're forcing them to pass. The Packers have a lot of plays that are safe routes. The one they converted to prolong and then basically end the game was that prime example of that. So hindsight's 20/20, but I think going into it, all 5 of us said, hey, I think they should consider going for it here.
Listen, you're playing shorthanded on offense. It's almost crazy to say when you have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Sammy Watkins back.
Yeah.
They got him back tonight, and
you're missing 3 linemen at that point.
That's right, because Laurent Duvernay-Tardif had left the game. But I just thought at that moment the Chiefs had a better shot of winning the game, picking up 3 yards there than they did of stopping Aaron Rodgers, no matter where that drive started.
Yeah,
They just did.
Yeah.
So that's just I don't. But I think we don't fault Andy Reid for the decision. It was a tough call, but you're right. We were all looking. It's we're playing with other people's chips at this point, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
But I agree with you. I mean, I think you want the Packers defense on the field, not the Packers offense on the field. So to me, that's what the decision comes down to. I thought Matt Moore was playing pretty well. He hadn't gotten a lot of throws in the second half at that point, and maybe that factors into the decision a little bit. But the plays they were throughout the game that they were having success with were the shorter plays. I didn't think 4th and 3 scared me all that much. I know you're missing 3 linemen. You're not going to be running the ball anyway at that point. So I thought the decision at the time was to go for it, and not to say that they win this game if they go for it. They still got 60 yards to go.
That's right. They've got to get in the end zone.
If you do get in the end zone, you are giving it back to Aaron Rodgers with full
time
allotment
on
of
the clock.
timeouts and time on the clock. So either situation is not a favorable situation. I just thought that the path of least resistance, I guess you could say, would be to go for it.
And if they don't get it there, the Packers are 5 yards away from Mason Crosby's distance.
For sure.
And then it's probably a 10-point lead. So, look, this was going to be a tough game anyway. But I ended up giving a lot of average to below average grades in the report, because once it was established that Matt Moore could play a little bit, I just thought, okay, the Chiefs still have weapons, and the Packers don't have a great defense. The Chiefs should be able to hang with them, and it's becoming a kind of increasingly frustrating pattern for the Chiefs that They end up with these really good second quarters and take the lead, and it looks like they've got everything going, and and they give it back. They can't capitalize on it. They don't seize the momentum. They just give it back.
Yeah, to me though, not to entirely disagree or agree with that, but I think if as a Chiefs fan, you should feel more encouraged by this game than you should have after their first two losses this year, and even that Detroit win. I thought that there were a lot more positive signs for the future tonight than there were after a lot of these after those Colts and Texans games when we wondered how's this team going to fix some of the issues they have. I didn't think there was a lot of that out there. I didn't think there was a lot of, hey, you've got to solve X, Y, and Z, and how the hell are you going to do it? I thought there were some pieces to really, especially defensively, and I thought Steve Spagnuolo had a really good day. I thought they disguised a lot of stuff more than what we saw in the first 5 or 6 weeks.
They were blitz happy tonight.
They were. They blitzed on a Hail Mary tonight. They blitzed on a Hail Mary tonight, and took him
got a second sack.
Took him by shock.
But I still think that once Matt Moore started playing well, I thought the Chiefs should have won the game. I did, because I thought, again, I will go back, we repeat it, but the Chiefs were playing good enough defense.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Packers defense is great. I just not taking advantage of having the ball first in the second half and LaShawn McCoy's fumble, I just thought were killers. All right, Sam Mellinger is here.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Sam.
going on, Sam?
How you doing? What'd you write?
Two things, basically. The first is an assist from Stockton over here. You articulated in a way that was just clearer in my head than what was in my head about there were so many injuries. Like I'm not saying this as an excuse for why they lost, but more as just a declaration of how different the team that the Chiefs think is good enough to be in the Super Bowl, how different that team is than the one tonight. This is a team, and there's no moral victories in the NFL, especially for teams that think they're in the Super Bowl, right? But if this was the Chiefs, if this was the 2019 Chiefs with Matt Moore and everybody else, nobody would take them seriously as a Super Bowl contender. So there's that. It's just hard to know what we're judging. The second thing is, I thought the defense. I agree with everything. I thought Steve Spagnuolo had a great day, and this is 2 weeks in a row. I'm curious about when the numbers come out of like Pro Football Focus that charts it, but this is 2 weeks in a row that they've seemed to blitz the holy hell out of the opposition. And it's one thing to do that against a statue like Joe Flacco, but Aaron Rodgers can move a little bit, and I didn't know if they were going to. And they got burned some on that stuff, but I think we expected at this point in the season for the coaches to know the personnel a little bit better, the personnel to know the coaches a little bit better, and this thing start to get some traction. I think maybe it's possible that the last 2 weeks we've seen that. Now, the other thing, the linebackers are pretty bad. And that is right now, to me anyway, the likeliest potential fatal flaw because they can't cover. And that's an out, for teams. And forget about they've gotten a little bit better against the run, but that's still a problem in the past. The double move, they got Hitchens and then another little screen. There was a quick hit. There was a Pro Football Focus number. I don't know if you guys saw this or have talked about it already, but Rodgers was 11 for 11 for 183, I think, yards when throwing against Hitchens, Damian Wilson, and Ben Neiman.
Wow.
That strikes me as good. I'm not a coach, but that strikes me as actually some good coaching.
That is what you want.
Yeah.
I mean,
and recognition on Aaron Rodgers' part.
Totally. And the two big plays, the 67-yard touchdown, and then before that, the 50-yard was a touchdown called back. Those were both empty sets, like 5 wide, where it looked like the play design was specifically to get Aaron Jones against anything. And now look, Aaron Jones is a really good. That's his thing. He is really good out of the backfield. Who else is really good out of the backfield is James White, who plays for the Patriots. I mean, there's some stuff that the Chiefs are going to run into that is going to be a problem if they don't figure out a way to fix this.
Yeah, which was interesting on that. That was interesting on that personnel though, because they did run 5 wide a lot tonight with the running back as one of the
As one of
five
the wides,
wide.
yeah.
And you wondered if that was to get a linebacker on the field, seeing the personnel, and then all of a sudden they were still having empty backfield sets.
Yep.
So basically, we're back to square one again, where they stopped the run last week against Denver, but they had that 4-game stretch with issues against running backs.
Yeah.
They have an issue tonight with Aaron Jones. And now they get the run-happy Minnesota Vikings next week. So that's going to, you got to hunker down here in the next couple of days.
They've got two studs.
Yes, they do.
They've got two studs.
Mike Pennell played tonight. I must confess that when I saw the depth chart and saw Mike Pennell on the depth chart, I thought, But they had to play him tonight because at one point they were, because of Okafor's injury and who else got hurt inside, but they were down to their only, every available body played for the Chiefs tonight. There was no substitution at tackle and at end at one point tonight. And as you mentioned, 3 offensive line starters by the end of the game. They're down to, Schwartz and Roston Ryder as the only starters on the offensive line.
And at one point when Breland was out, they were down to 3 cornerbacks. Injuries keep hitting this team.
That actually made the defensive line's performance even better, I thought, where those guys weren't getting a lot of breaks.
No, they weren't. And I'll tell you what, I think Colin Saunders had a good game tonight. He got his first sack and played well, and Derek Nottie, I thought, played okay. But
some of that pressure, I'm sorry to interrupt, but some of that pressure, we need to give credit to the secondary. Especially, and he beat his guy with a nice spin and everything, but Passanio's sack.
Had a lot of time to do it, though.
Yeah. I mean, they've been covering. I mean,
secondary was great tonight.
They've been really
especially
good.
You just listed that stat. They gave up 186 yards to the running backs, and Rodgers throws for 305. So
they've been really good.
120 to guys that your secondary is covering. You'll take that every week.
I feel like the secondary has steadily gotten better each week.
Travarius Ward had a great pass breakup tonight.
Yeah, he did down the left side.
Yeah, the sideline.
And with more blitzing, I mean, that's obviously makes your secondary's job more difficult the more numbers that you're bringing. So, maybe that's why they're blitzing more too, though. Maybe he sees some improvement out of the secondary and feels like he doesn't need to leave quite as many guys back.
So let's talk about the status of some of these guys. With the trade deadline on Tuesday, was it Tuesday? Yeah, it's Tuesday, right?
4
It's
p.m.
after Monday Night Football. Do the Chiefs feel good about the prospect of Andrew Wiley, Kendall Fuller, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Eric Fisher, and Mahomes returning so soon that they don't need the additions, or and if they are looking, where are they looking, and what might they be looking at? What do you think?
I think if I'm making a move, it's either at cornerback. I mean, there are some pretty big names out there, and we do know since the start of the season, before they went elsewhere, Minkah Fitzpatrick was linked to the Chiefs. Jalen Ramsey was linked to the Chiefs. So who's to say that they're still not looking for some defensive secondary help? But if anything, I think a linebacker has to at least be on the menu, at least be considered. I don't know if there's any linebackers around the NFL that you'd be willing to make a trade for, because when you make a trade, you're looking for an impact guy. And I think across the league, I don't see the Panthers trading Luke Kuechly anytime soon, or somebody of that nature. But
no, I don't either. A lot of our audience has suggested or have wondered why Dorian O'Daniel doesn't get more of an opportunity.
Me too.
I didn't think Ben Neiman had a great night, and I wonder if O'Daniel's going to have more of an opportunity moving forward based on what we saw out of Ben Neiman tonight.
But it doesn't surprise me, though, because I think a lot of us, because we've covered the National Football League for a while, but most times when you have that young linebacker, where do they start out? On special teams. Yeah. Because special teams helps these young linebackers transition from college, and even cornerbacks and even sometimes running backs, to learn to think fast. And that's what you got to have out there. If you're going to play linebacker every down, you have to be able to think fast. And the young players learn to do that on special teams, and that's where we're seeing O'Daniel a lot. But
you also have to get the greatest value. You've got to play the young guys early too. I mean, they've got to be on the field, and sometimes baptism by fire with some of these guys. And O'Daniel, he just, for whatever reason, can't get on the field at linebacker. I agree. I saw Neiman kind of a step slow tonight.
Yeah, and he's their coverage guy. I mean, they
Yep.
bring him in on coverage packages. We've talked about this before, but I liked O'Daniel last year. I thought he showed some flashes of playmaking ability, and it surprises me his role within the defense has been as limited as it has been.
There was a point last season where he started playing, and he wasn't like a fix-it, he wasn't the complete solution, but they had this problem. They've had this problem for most of the last 3 years of covering running backs in the passing game, and then he helped in that. That was a help for them last year. And I assume that it's more of what you were just talking about thinking fast. I assume that it's the transition to a new defense, and maybe that's been a struggle. That's the best solution or the best explanation that I can have. But they might have to let him make some mistakes, make some plays and make some mistakes.
What'd you think of the 4th and 3?
Punting?
Yeah.
Hated it. Yeah, I mean, and there was another one earlier in the game that I didn't like either.
I thought on their first possession when it was
4th and inches.
Fourth
Yeah,
and inches,
that's the
I
one.
thought, right now,
Yep.
establish that you trust your offense and your quarterback, and you're better than their defense, and just
Yep.
sneak in.
I doubt this would factor
Did you
in.
just say
but
quarterback
that's what I was
sneak?
going to say. You've got a quarterback.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry.
Quarterback sneak is the best play call there.
I just I look like I like numbers. I like the metrics
Facts.
and everything. Yeah, and the numbers say that you should go for
A
it. in that
lot
situation.
more. John Harbaugh's about the only guy that
Yeah.
seems to
It-
back up what the numbers
Yeah,
are doing, or go with what the numbers are suggesting.
And that's weird to me in 2019.
I agree.
That when coaches, and not just coaches, but entire football operations are spending countless hours and tons of money to find every little edge. And here's one.
Yeah.
And
There were, not to harp on another one, but the way they called their timeouts at the end of the game, I actually thought cost them a timeout as well.
Yeah.
They called timeout with 2:50 left, and you're already going to have to run another play for the Green Bay Packers. And so when the Chiefs called timeout, I didn't feel like they were adding another play to the equation. And maybe there's 40 seconds left at the end of the game if they played that a little bit differently.
yeah.
Okay, Herbie, we'll let you answer this from Chris Clatterbuck. Herbie, rock and purple because of the K-State Oklahoma game?
Absolutely yes.
E-Maw.
Emaw, baby.
You too?
Is this purple? I thought it was more pink than purple, but
It looks purple. I made a comment.
But
It looks
happy,
purple.
happy for the Fighting Emos and KU and the Rock Chalks, and not so much the Tigers. Not so happy about the Tigers. But all right, so where do they go from here? I mean, what's the expectation of? You said it earlier, Sam? There's part of you is encouraged by kind of what you saw tonight.
Yeah, if Matt Morris has started another game, I feel better about it than I did
Yes.
going into this game. I think that's what I meant by I think Chiefs fans should be encouraged by what they saw is they should feel better going up against the Minnesota Vikings now than they would have yesterday.
One thing kind of along that point is Patrick Mahomes is such an outrageous talent that he sort of just overshadows everything else. But with your essentially third string quarterback that you brought in on August 30th or whatever the date was, it's a little bit of a reminder that Andy Reid, he's still got it.
Yeah.
Like he can dial some stuff up. It's just a reminder that underneath this, again, outrageous talent that they have at quarterback when he's healthy, they've got some infrastructure to support that.
I think if anything, Matt Moore's performance tonight shows that you don't have to rush Chad Henne back into action either. I think Moore can handle this offense, and what impressed me the most was he didn't let the game get too big after those first two bad series.
Yeah.
He settled down.
He really did.
That's the sign of a veteran, and you need that kind of presence back there.
That's a good point about Chad Henne.
He also, you guys may have talked about this before I got in, but the one that stuck out, he took some vicious hits.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just willing to, if he sees a throw that it's going to need one more second and there's a guy that's 3 feet away, he'll wait and he'll wear it just to make the throw. That's pretty impressive.
Which we learned during the game because Vahe brought up a clip of him with the Dolphins getting just absolutely crushed by, I think it was Bud Dupree against
it
the
was.
Steelers in the playoff game.
He got killed in that game.
Absolutely killed. I think Vahe watched that 20, 25 times on
And
loop.
every time, man, this is hard to watch.
Hard to
Again,
watch. Let me replay.
Paul Eccles wanted to know what we thought of the Andy Reid challenge flag early in the game.
Bad challenge.
Yeah, that was a bad challenge.
But where's he?
What
you
was
asked
he
this, where's he
seeing?
getting his information from, though?
I don't know.
Because I doubt he just. I hope it was more than, hey, I just saw this on the jumbotron and heard the crowd react, and I think we should give him more credit. I assume it is more than that. Something in the headset came through, and the Packers always, and they're notorious for this. I mean, they always speed up to the line and make the decision tough on the defense, which for years I've been saying I don't know why every NFL team doesn't, because it's not just about getting credit for a play that didn't happen. It's about doing exactly what happened tonight. You cost the Chiefs a challenge because your play was correct. You rushed up to the line and made them rush their decision.
Yeah, yeah. I had to, again, you give out grades at the end of the. I was kind of torn on the coaching because I thought Andy and the staff actually did a good job getting Matt Moore prepared.
Yeah.
But I thought that challenge flag and I thought the 4th and 3 call kind of spoiled things a little bit.
It was a white flag, that 4th and 3, that punt, and the explanation just didn't. That was rough too. Like we had momentum, so giving the ball to Aaron Rodgers at the end of the game wasn't that big of a concern. It's just like, come on.
Right.
I didn't like that either.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's bring this in for a landing. Looks like Vahe is going to stiff us yet
Once again.
Once again, Vahe. But you know what he's writing is going to be good because he's using his 2 fingers to craft it on the keyboard. So we'll wrap it up here and head home. We'll be back with you on Thursday from Big O Tires at the Legends in KCK. Looking forward to that. So for Sam McDowell, Herbie Teope, Sam Melliger, Beth Welsh, who was our producer. Thanks, Beth. We will talk to you again on Thursday. Good night.